Alright folks, settle in. Welcome back to Back. Today we're diving into a serious topic, the most dangerous cartels in Mexico. Stay tuned to learn about the top 5 cartels that have had a significant impact on the country. This isn't some Hollywood movie, man, this is the real deal, organizations with power that rivals and sometimes even surpasses governments. We're talking about entities that control vast territories, command armies of loyal soldiers, and generate billions, that's right, billions of dollars through illicit means. It's a complex, brutal world, and it's happening right next door to the US, influencing so much of what goes on, whether we realize it or not. These groups aren't just street gangs, they're sophisticated, transnational criminal enterprises. They've got logistics that would make Amazon jealous, intelligence networks that are terrifyingly effective, and a capacity for violence that is just, frankly, mind-boggling. Think about the sheer audacity, the level of organization required to run these empires. It's a dark reflection of legitimate business, twisted and turned to serve a destructive purpose. We're going to peel back some of the layers, look at who these groups are, how they operate, and the kind of impact they're having, not just in Mexico but globally. It's heavy stuff, no doubt, but it's important to understand the forces at play, so grab a drink, get comfortable, because we're about to venture into a world that's as fascinating as it is horrifying. We'll be looking at the big players, the ones whose names are whispered in fear and in some twisted way, even with a strange kind of respect for their sheer ruthlessness and power. This is about understanding the landscape, the key figures, and the brutal reality of the cartel phenomenon. It's a deep dive, and you're coming with me. Let's get into it. First up, we gotta talk about the legends, or maybe I should say, the infamous giants, the Sinaloa cartel. Man, these guys are like the original gangsters of the modern cartel era. For decades, they've been a dominant force, almost a brand name in the underworld, if you can believe that. Founded by figures who are now almost mythological, like Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, this cartel didn't just pop up overnight. They built their empire brick by bloody brick, mastering the art of smuggling long before many of these other groups even existed. Their influence stretches from the mountains of Sinaloa, their heartland, across continents. It's wild when you think about the logistics involved, moving tons of product across borders, managing a global supply chain of illegal substances. They're not just thugs, they're strategic, they're patient, and they're deeply, deeply entrenched. The Sinaloa cartel's history is a long and complex story of alliances, betrayals, and an almost corporate-like approach to the drug trade. They were pioneers in using sophisticated methods, from narco tunnels that are engineering marvels in their own twisted way, to submarines. Imagine the balls it takes to build a submarine to smuggle cocaine. That's the level we're talking about. Their influence isn't just about violence, though there's plenty of that. It's also about corruption, buying off officials, infiltrating legitimate businesses, and creating a shadow state in the regions they control. El Chapo might be locked up, but the Sinaloa cartel is a hydra, man. You cut off one head, and others are there, ready to take over. They've shown a resilience that's frankly terrifying. Their power comes from a combination of factors: deep roots in their communities, where they sometimes play the role of benefactor, a kind of twisted Robin Hood figure, which is insane to even say. They also have an unparalleled understanding of the drug routes, the markets, and the political landscape. They've weathered storms, internal feuds, and massive government crackdowns, and yet they persist. The sheer scale of their operations, the billions they generate, it warps everything around them. It's a testament to their adaptability and their ruthlessness. Understanding Sinaloa is key to understanding the entire narco landscape in Mexico and beyond. They set the template for so many others, for better or mostly for worse. Now, if Sinaloa represents the old guard, then the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generation, or CJNG, is the aggressive, hyper-violent new kid on the block that's trying to burn the whole neighborhood down. These guys exploded onto the scene with a level of brutality and ambition that shocked even seasoned observers of this narco world. Led by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, a shadowy figure who's become one of the most wanted men on the planet, CJNG has expanded at a terrifying pace. They're not just content with drug trafficking, they're into everything: extortion, kidnapping, oil theft, you name it. If it's illegal and makes money, CJNG wants a piece. And they're not shy about using extreme force to get it. What sets CJNG apart is their almost military-like discipline and their willingness to directly confront the state, We're talking about ambushing police convoys, shooting down military helicopters, stuff that sounds like it's straight out of a war zone because in many ways it is. El Mencho is almost like a ghost. Very few pictures of him, very little known for sure, which only adds to his mystique and the fear he instills. The propaganda they put out is also something else. Videos of heavily armed sicarios looking like a special forces unit, pledging allegiance and threatening rivals. It's a psychological warfare tactic, and man, it seems to be working. They've spread across Mexico like a cancer, challenging Sinaloa and other established cartels for dominance in a bloody, relentless turf war. Their criminal activities are diverse and incredibly damaging. Beyond the obvious drug trade meth, fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, they're deep into avocado extortion in Michoacán, which sounds almost comical until you realize they're terrorizing farmers and controlling $1 billion industry. They infiltrate local economies, corrupt officials, and create an atmosphere of fear that paralyzes communities. The speed of their rise is a testament to their ruthlessness and their business acumen, if you can call it that. They've identified weaknesses in their rivals and exploited them without mercy. CJN isn't just a cartel, it's an insurgency, a criminal enterprise that's challenging the very sovereignty of the Mexican state in some areas. Chapter 3. Let's talk about another one of the OGs, a cartel with a history stretching back decades, the Gulf Cartel. These guys have been around the block, man, originating way back. Some say even before the big Colombian cartels of the 80s, initially dealing in alcohol during Prohibition, and then graduating to other, harder stuff. Their traditional stronghold is Tamaulipas, a state that borders Texas, which makes it prime real estate for smuggling anything and everything into the U.S. That geographical advantage has always been their bread and butter, the core of their power. Think about it, controlling those border crossings, those plazas. It's like owning the keys to a gold mine. For years they were dominant force in that part of Mexico. The Gulf Cartel's main areas of operation have historically been concentrated along Mexico's northeastern coast, controlling key cities like Matamoros, Reynosa, and Nuevo Laredo. These aren't just dots on a map, they are vital arteries for trade, both legal and illegal. Imagine the sheer volume of goods, of people, of money that flows through these points. The Gulf Cartel, for a long time, had an iron grip on this, extracting their cut, ensuring their product moved north. They've had their share of legendary and terrifying leaders like Juan Garcia Abrego, who was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. They built a sophisticated network of corruption, informants, and enforcers to maintain their dominance over these lucrative territories. It's all about location, 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 even in the criminal underworld. However, like all these organizations, the Gulf Cartel has faced its share of turmoil. Internal power struggles, pressure from rival cartels, and government crackdowns have weakened them at times. They famously had Los Zetas as their enforcer wing before the Zetas splintered off and became their own brutal entity, leading to some of an incredibly violent period in Mexican history. Despite these challenges and fragmentations, remnants of the Gulf Cartel continue to operate. They might not have the unified monolithic power they once did, but factions still control valuable smuggling routes and engage in a variety of criminal enterprises in their traditional strongholds. They're a testament to how entrenched these groups can become, almost like a permanent fixture in the criminal landscape. Chapter 4. Alright, now we need to talk about a group that redefined brutality in the cartel wars, Los Zetas. Man, just saying their name sends a chill down your spine if you know anything about their history. These guys weren't your typical narcos who came up through the smuggling ranks. No, Los Zetas started as deserters from the Mexican Army's elite airborne special forces unit, the GAFE. They were highly trained, disciplined, and absolutely ruthless. Initially they were hired as the enforcer wing for the Gulf Cartel in the late 90s, a sort of private army. But it wasn't long before these attack dogs decided they wanted to be the masters. The power, the money, it was too tempting. The impact Los Zetas had on local communities was, and in many areas still is, devastating. When they broke from the Gulf Cartel around 2010, it unleashed a wave of violence that was unprecedented even by Mexican standards. Their military background meant they brought a new level of tactical sophistication and savagery to cartel warfare. They weren't just about killing rivals, they were about terrorizing the population into submission. Massacres, beheadings, public displays of bodies, these became their calling cards. They diversified their criminal portfolio aggressively, moving heavily into extortion, kidnapping, human trafficking, and oil theft, squeezing every last drop of illicit profit from the territories they controlled. They weren't just fighting for drug routes, they were fighting for total control over communities. For ordinary people living in Zetas-controlled territory, life became a living hell. Businesses were forced to pay piso, a tax, people lived in constant fear of being kidnapped or caught in the crossfire, and local governments were often completely co-opted or intimidated into silence. The Zetas didn't try to win hearts and minds like some other cartels occasionally pretended to. Their model was based purely on fear and brutality. They systematically dismantled social structures and replaced them with their own reign of terror. Though the group has since splintered into factions after intense pressure from authorities and rival cartels, their legacy of extreme violence has left deep, lasting scars on Mexican society and changed the game for how these conflicts are fought. Chapter 5. Last on our list for today, but by no means insignificant, especially historically, is the Tijuana cartel, also known as the Arellano Felix organization. These guys were absolute titans in the 90s and early 2000s, controlling the coveted Tijuana-San Diego smuggling corridor, one of the busiest border crossings in the world. Think about that gateway. It's a direct pipeline into California, a massive market. The Arellano Felix brothers, a whole family of them, ran this organization with an iron fist and a flair for flamboyant violence. They were notorious for their ruthlessness, their public displays of wealth, and their willingness to take on anyone who challenged their dominance, including high-ranking law enforcement and rivals. The Tijuana cartel was one of the most powerful and violent criminal groups in Mexico during its heyday. They were pioneers in a lot of the more aggressive tactics that later became commonplace. Their battles with the Sinaloa cartel for control of Baja California were legendary and incredibly bloody, turning Tijuana into a war zone at times. Recent news and significant events show that while the Arellano Felix organization is a shadow of its former self, after key leaders were killed or arrested, remnants and successor groups still operate in the region. The Tijuana Plaza remains a highly contested prize, and violence often flares up as different factions and newer cartels like CJang try to assert control. It's a constant struggle for power in that critical border zone. Even though they're not the dominant force they once were, the story of the Tijuana cartel is a crucial chapter in the history of Mexican organized crime. They showed how a family-run enterprise could control a vital smuggling route and amass incredible power and wealth. The takedown of their leadership was a major victory for law enforcement, but it also created a power vacuum that others were all too eager to fill, leading to more instability. The recent flare-ups and continued criminal activity in their former strongholds demonstrate the resilience of these networks and the enduring allure of controlling such a lucrative border crossing. The game changes, the players change, but the fight for Tijuana, it seems, never truly ends. Chapter 6. So that's a glimpse, just a glimpse, into the complex and terrifying world of some of Mexico's most dangerous cartels. It's heavy, man, I know. The sheer scale of their operations, the brutality, the way they intertwine with communities and even governments. It's a lot to process. What we've talked about today, the Sinaloa, CJang, Gulf, Zetas, and Tijuana cartels, they're not just abstract entities, they're made up of people, making choices that have devastating consequences for millions. Understanding these groups isn't about glorifying them, it's about recognizing the reality of a situation that impacts us all, whether it's through the drugs on the streets, the violence spilling over borders, or the corruption that erodes societies. The fight against these organizations is a monumental challenge, one that Mexico has been grappling with for decades with immense human cost. And it's not just Mexico's problem. The demand for drugs from countries like the US fuels this whole machine. It's a symbiotic, destructive relationship. There are no easy answers, no quick fixes. It's a multifaceted issue involving law enforcement, economic development, social programs, and international cooperation. It's a battle for the future, and it's being fought every single day by brave individuals, by communities trying to reclaim their lives, and by governments, with varying degrees of success and, let's be honest, sometimes complicity. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to ErgoBack for more content like this. We try to tackle the tough subjects here, to get you thinking, to spark a conversation. There's so much more to explore, so many more angles to consider. Stay safe and see you in the next video. We've got a lot more ground to cover.